Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Victor Hambrick, professional hitting and pitching. We're going to talk about bringing technology and training together. It was a very interesting process when you started seeing all the, you get different tools, or whether it was electronic prior to electronics, it may have been a funny shaped bat or something of that sort. And how do you bring that tool to the athlete and put it in front of them and get them to understand it, or get them to see the results? So we've done it with Blast. We've done it with using live pitching simulators, so we can create game time velocity, Rapsodo and Right View Pro. And one of the things that's been interesting with Blast is, it gives all of the pre-contact metrics, so to speak, is what you're focused on when you're looking at your rotation, your plane, and your connection, early connection, and getting the players to understand. So what I found is it's like anything else in life, as we started to plan the work and work the plan and convince the adult athletes about it's the little things that make the big things happen. But as an athlete, we also know that sometimes it's not the most exciting thing to practice the little thing, because everybody's looking for the big result or the end result and those type of things. But without doing those little things, we don't ever get to the end result. And then communicating that was key. So I'll give an example. We talk about rotation, and people would think, or an athlete would think, well, how can I rotate harder? How can I create more ground force and come forward to the ball, etc.? And we could actually change an athlete's number for the better just by them understanding the motions of their body and the sequence that their body does each of those motions. And when you put a tool like Blast on, you can see it affect the measurement. So for example, we can make an adjustments in an athlete's stance and improve their rotation score. And so now then we actually have to do drills that might improve their stance, might improve their positive move, and you'll see those scores go up. When we do that kind of stuff, what we end up getting is buy-in from the athlete. Like, we'll do something and say, okay, let's watch this little simple thing here, have them do it, let them see the metric. And when that metric comes out and that metric improves, especially we live in a world of instant gratification. So they see an instant improvement with it, and then they develop a trust and a buy-in, and then that little bitty thing becomes important versus just the end result. And if we put all those little things together, we tend to get the results that we want. So it builds a trust and a confidence with the athlete, and then it builds a trust and confidence in the process that we're taking to training them. If you go to the next slide, you'll see I've just kind of broke out here the sequence of the motions and defined them to a stance, a negative, a positive, a heel plan, a connection, a bat lag, and follow through. And when they understand the order that it has to go into, and when we take things out of that order, then it seems to get different numbers or lower numbers on Blast, then they instantly make it important to want to train that process and train that step-by-step situation. If you'll go to the next slide, example, what I put together here is an example of a kid, and this is small number of data just to show how we can develop and convince that and get that buy-in, and instead of deferring away or not liking the data that they're receiving, they get to see that improvement and how it can make them better. And then it becomes more of an addiction of, okay, I'm going to keep working this and getting better and better. So it creates not only a work ethic, but it creates a challenge amongst themselves, creates a healthy competition trying to improve themselves every swing that they take. So it makes it very purposeful of what they're doing, which then begins to make practice very efficient and things of that sort. But if you look at this player here, we have an athlete and we focused on one metric here, which was their rotational acceleration. And their rotational acceleration was at 9.2. We then took, if you go to the next slide, and just made an adjustment with their stance And by making an adjustment with their stance, we're able to take that rotational acceleration and jump it up to a 9.8. And then if you go to the next slide, progression 3, we took that same adjustment that we made with their stance and made sure that we kept our bodies in a motion and in a form to create that same athletic swing. I have a saying here that we do. We have 2 phases of the swing. First, you get ready to swing, and then you swing. And so what we did is we got them ready in a better way to swing, and by doing that, their numbers increased, and instantly in just a short little time, we were able to bring them from a lower rotational acceleration to where it was meeting the goals of what is set out on the professional and college level. Then by doing that, the athlete became not only confident in what we were teaching, but also became confident in the process and gave her a motivation to work. And the way that we like to build it is we build it on I like to call it the groundwork first. And so if you can create that on a tee, and then you can create that on a side toss, and then you can take and bring them to the live simulator and create that there, then they get to see when they show up at the field, it'll relate to the game versus we're just in the cage getting front toss, we're just in the cage getting soft toss, we got it on the tee. And not only that, after that, instead of focusing on the level of the numbers, what we like to focus on is the consistency. When we can get them in the live situation with a live simulator and be locating pitches different places or variable speeds that are coming at different times, but we've created that consistent swing, then we create higher on base percentages. We create power in multiple locations of the strike zone and those type of things. And what the athlete takes out of it when they see it work is the big thing. They trust the process, but bigger than that, they understand their swings and they become their own best coach because they start to begin to understand why that drill creates that number better and those type of things. And so it's really fun to watch them at that point because they actually begin to compete with themselves. And when they're competing with themselves, you just watch them explode as what they become as an athlete.